What's up, everybody? Welcome back to HOA MMA. AJ, how is it going across the pond?
It's going good over here. It's still warm, not as warm as it has been for the past couple of weeks. Rehab is going well in terms of with like my foot injury. Doing those exercises when he's really annoying the insoles, which makes me look even taller than what I already am. But yeah, so I can definitely feel the progress in it, even though it's just been about a week or so. It's been going good, keeping myself busy, spending time with the fam, getting ready because I'm flying out next week. So I've got that to look forward to. But the biggest thing this week, and so I'm going to say this now. I know a lot of people know me and you for being friends because we're big into MMA. But we actually became bonded through our love of shows and movies. Shows and movies was when, as you can see in the background of Dogs here, One Piece, anime, that's like our bread and butter. I've got lots of Richard's manga stuff posters in the back. But with us two and one of our other friends, Brando, who is one of our close friends, we kind of talk a lot about certain shows in which we like. And we've both decided, funny enough, at the same time to rewatch Lost. And I'm literally hooked in again, man. I'm hooked in again, man. I just finished season 1, and boy.
So I watched Lost. It's been probably a couple years since I really sat down and watched it all the way through. And I think the problem with shows is we get so invested and they're so important to us because they're so damn good. A show like Lost was so amazing and so incredible, and it really kicked off a big boom of TV starting in the early thousands. And I think why shows hurt us more is because we care so much. So like when Lost doesn't end really in a good spot, it hurts a lot more for longer because we wanted it so badly. And Lost is the prime example of just a fantastic, interesting, intertwined show that we wanted so badly to be perfect. And it's almost impossible to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like you're saying right now, I think I'm 10 or 11 episodes in. I think you finished the first season now.
Yeah, I'm on episode 3 of season 2.
It's just so like episode 1, you're just, who's this? Who's that? What is he doing? What is she doing? Is she important? Is what they're doing important? There's so many layers and layers and layers to Lost that you can watch it a couple times and you'll pick up something new each time. Like, if you haven't watched it, sucks. It's been out for 20 years. Locke, we don't realize that he was in a wheelchair until halfway through, but the significance of him wiggling his toes when he wakes or, sits up from the crash, like we don't think about stuff, just small little details that are so important. Sawyer's note, like why is this tough, rugged dude carrying around a note? And then you find out like 6 episodes later, he wrote it to himself. Like it's just layers and layers of just details. But go ahead, tell me, you're a little bit ahead of me. So how are you feeling right now starting season 2?
So I guess because I didn't watch all of it straight away because my parents watched it a lot. I caught it a little bit later on because I wasn't really watching TV like that because I was very, very young. But like my parents were watching it week in, week out. They were like crazy over it. I caught onto it like a little bit later on, but even watching it back again now, and especially watching like the first season when my memory isn't the best of it because I'll just watch it with them there and then. Whereas I think around season 3, season 4 is when I really watched it myself.
Yeah,
and it's I think it's fair to say, arguably, that's probably like the first really great show of the 21st century, if that kind of makes sense. Actually, no. I mean, you've always got The Wire that came out like a year before. I guess I kind of guess.
Okay, this is the first great like ABC, what network, like network TV like that. HBO obviously has been around and had some hits. This is the first show like on national TV, cable. There you go. That was massive. Like
it's good.
I'm not counting Survivor and things like that. I'm counting like TV shows that go forward. I know what you're trying to say. Keep going.
Because especially over here, like it translated over here, like everyone was talking about it. Like everyone was watching Lost. I remember when the final season came out. I remember the final episode was airing the same time in America as it was over here. So we had to stay up at like 5 a.m. And we were just like, oh my God, we have to watch Lost. It's kind of fair to say like Lost was kind of like Thrones before Game of Thrones, where like it was literally everyone was talking about it at some point. Like it was like it came out. It was something brand new, really fresh. Like you said, it kicked off a really big boom in like modern TV, in which we see now, especially over the past like 15, 10 years or so. And but I'm kind of just going back onto season one. It's kind of like it's exactly what like the same thing what like you said. Watching it now, picking up in little things, like even in the first or second episode when it's like Locke and Walt and he's teaching them about backgammon. It's like two players. Yeah. One light, one dark, and you see him looking at it, and what that foreshadows later on, especially towards the very end, is amazing. The way it bookends that, like how that pays off, like later on. Season one is amazing. I actually forgot how many flashbacks they really have in that show because there is a lot. Whereas the island's a lot more interesting, like to me, but the flashbacks are necessary. Even how season one ends when like everyone's thinking, like they're basically after the baby. It's not the baby. They're after the basically after the wall. And season two kicks in, like hits the ground running. You obviously meet Desmond very early on. Like it's been really amazing, man. Like I've been really hooked in, enjoying this. Just like be watching it all again, man.
Yeah, no, and it's like you're saying, it's so fantastic. And for the time period, it holds up really well. If you want to be a stickler about stupid stuff like CGI, yeah, of course. But the time, you got to think of the time frame of when this was happening. It's like, it's so good. It's such a great show. Before we move on, who is your favorite character through what you said, season 2, episode 3? So who's your favorite character from that beginning to season 2?
I've always been like a Walt fan. I've always liked Walt. Maybe when I was watching it because he was so young and I was like basically a kid when I was watching it. So I've always resonated with like Walt. Rewatching it now, I still like Sawyer a lot because there's a lot of like depth to him underneath the surface. You think he's this rugged, like very like selfish guy, but you look into his background and just like the small things he does, you show there is like a lot more to him, especially that talk between him and Jack at the end of season 1. When he talks about very, very important, like very, very important. Jack, I've always liked, even though I remember you mentioned in our group chat when he gets wrecked by Ethan, like he has no hands, crazy. But Locke, like still for me, like Locke, yeah, I'll probably say Walt and Locke are probably my 2 favorite characters.
Yeah,
so far.
And most certainly, John Locke is the center point of a lot. Like going forward, he is very important. I gotta like Saeed. I don't remember him as well as I like him now.
MVP of
like you said of season 1. He's MVP. Very close to being MVP for sure. I just like the way he handles himself, and then obviously he finally gets pushed too far with Sawyer and makes the mistake of stabbing him in the arm. But other than that, like the stuff with Danielle that he goes through is very interesting, and we see his flashback of when he was in the Iraqi military.
Yeah,
very good layers to him. Him coming back and telling everybody about the others is super important. So I really like Saeed coming back around this might be my 3rd time now. I don't remember. But obviously Jack's great, and I like Kate. I've had a crush on her since early 2000s when Lost came out. So yeah, lots of Lost talk. Hopefully you guys don't get derailed by that, but hell of a show. Very important to us, clearly. AJ, let's get into UFC Fight Night. Strickland versus Mr. Cardio himself, Magomedov. Holy crap. I understand guys get tired, but that was like a dropped off a cliff type cardio problem. Let's start with what were your highs from the card? and then we'll get into the low lights after that.
My highs of the card. So first one that comes to mind is actually like the co-main Dawson against Usman.
Oh my god,
huge win. Like that was impressive because if you go out and perform like that, like against someone that good,
yeah,
that's that was very impressive. Like we both said last week, that's like a 50-50 fight.
mm-hmm.
And Dawson shined. Like Dawson really came out to show, and just crazy. Even another high for me was actually Benoit when he
dude, he was incredible.
Crazy fight, back and forth throughout the first round, but like the way he actually like put him away was sensational. Very nice. He took away all of, obviously Bonfay was coming in with like a ton of hype considering what he did in January.
The big knee.
And with the crazy switch knee knockout, all of that went because Benoit was just
he was definitely at one of my highs. That submission was fantastic. Getting a guy like Bonfim out in the first round without it being like a knockout going against you is very impressive. What else did you have on your highlights?
My one is kind of like a bit of I liked Michael Morales as well fighting against Max Griffin because we see him as this like heavy-handed guy, right? You know, he comes in, he just puts people out. He's 24, undefeated. If you know about him, he's one of the ones that you want to like really go and like look out for. But I like him going fighting across like fighting like 3 rounds, like just getting like experiencing. It's all good going out there and just like knocking someone out and making like a statement, which I thought that he was gonna make. But that kind of like time, fighting across like for 3 rounds, getting kind of pushed a bit and not just like, and you're showing like your full like skill set. I think that's going to be very like valuable for him. So I think like long term, that's something that will obviously bode him really well.
Also, obviously Max was on the losing end, but tough, dude, tough as nails. Like he took some serious shots throughout that fight and kept going. And I just want to give him a shout out because his toughness was definitely on display against a young guy who has skills that point upward towards being a title contender at some point. And since you're not going to do it, and since I don't like the guy either, but Sean Strickland, man, if you can't get him out of there, he's going to wear you out because he just builds and gets better, and his jabs start to touch you and touch you and touch you, and he's just got the cardio to go. Like, just obviously the guy, Magomedov, he fell off a cliff there cardio-wise. But
horrible game plan. As impressive as Sean was, he had a bad game plan, and he just thought, okay, I'm going to go out there and blow him away when basically a round. And as much as people shit on like Sean Strickland because of who he is and what he says, he's still ranked for a reason. He may not be Izzy or Rob, but he's in that top 10 for like a reason. He fought against Cannonier in a really close fight, who a couple of weeks ago just battered Marvin. Like he just put like a beating on him. So that kind of shows like he's there for a reason. And Magomedov just wasn't ready. He just thought, okay, there's a reason why people, after having one fight in the UFC, you don't go straight into someone inside the top 10. I know that they want to have brand new guys who want to like challenge the champ eventually, because there's literally no one right now, even though they're pushing someone, which we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about it, yes.
About that later on stuff, but it's very clear that he was not ready. He just thought, okay, I'm coming off a highlight ring knockout in 20 seconds. I could probably do the same. I can punch my ticket, and it's not that simple. Not everyone is going to be Alex Pereira, who has a ungodly left hook of death. Like that just doesn't happen often.
You'd think after Strickland explained that to people, they might just take him at his word because he admitted that it was a bad idea to even try that with Pereira. But no, Magomedov. So my low right there is going to be Magomedov's cardio. It's fucking terrible. That was embarrassing as hell to spend yourself. And I don't even think there was a point in the first round that it was close enough for him to even empty the gas tank. Like, yeah. Sean gave you the first round. Like, it was pretty apparent to everybody that he was just finding his range and checking out your range, and you emptied your gas tank without even trying to get a real finish.
It wasn't as if he had him hurt to feel like, okay, I should actually go for it, you know?
No, like those front kicks are beautiful until you're tired and you can't put any force behind them. Like, I'm sure, yeah, you kicked Sean in the gut a couple times, but there was nothing in that first round worthy of emptying your gas tank. So his stock way down after that, because that just, you cannot fight that way. And then it's unfortunate, but Kevin Lee, he was released this week, or, he got released after that.
Oh, really? I didn't even see that.
The game has unfortunately passed Kevin Lee by. And I think he's 31. It's not even that crazy. He's younger than I am.
That's
like, it was just so apparent that he's been passed by these guys. Like,
well, as much as it's, and that's like a low for me, but I'm kind of torn because at the same time, Renat looked impressive because he literally ran through Kevin. Like, he dropped him, and the way that he literally got him in that guillotine and dropped him, and Kevin was just taking a nap basically. That is someone looking forward. 21-1 now, 25 win streak. People saying is his record padded? Has he fought against really good opposition? We haven't seen someone do that to Kevin Lee inside the first round like that, if not ever, as far as I am personally aware of, at least. So this is someone we need to look out for because he could potentially be a real dark horse at 170.
And to be fair, we mentioned that last week, that this was not doing Kevin Lee any favors
at all.
And it showed very quick. I mean, he caught that straight right and was down, and he didn't have any resistance for him. And that very well, this could springboard to, future bigger challenges for him. Very impressed with him, but Kevin Lee, after getting cut and just the way that went down, it was unfortunately a low for that fight card. Did you have anything else on your lowlights that you wanted to share with us before we put a bow on Fight Night Strickland and Magomedov?
No, not for me, no. Not for me, man. Not for me at all.
I was surprised that Ferreira got beat the way he did.
Oh, yeah.
To be fair, I thought he was going to be a little more effective. I mean, it took what, nine total punches to put him out. That was pretty crazy for me. That was very
crazy. Another one, Lipsy. Lipsy.
That was close.
It was a good fight, but it was a win that she needed badly. So obviously, hopefully for her, she can build on it. And
I thought Gatto just waited too long to anytime she threw her combination, it worked, and she just didn't throw it consistently enough.
She was very gun shy. She was very gun shy.
That's the word for it right there. I mean, she did outstrike her still, but it just felt like she was waiting too much. So I know stats, if you touch them, it counts. Stats are a little bit skewed in those ways. But overall, I thought it was a solid fight night. Again, you get these guys and gals in the cage, and they go to work. Not the craziest stacked card we've ever seen, but still a very solid outing in the actual octagon. Let's jump ahead to something we are both uber excited for. UFC 290.
It's an awesome fight week, bro.
It is literally a massive night for the UFC. Before we get into all the actual meat and potatoes, is there anything on the early part of the card that you want to touch on before we get going into the beef of the card?
I want to give two guys shout out who are going to be on the early prelims. Mm-hmm. One is the South African bantamweight, Cameron Simon, I believe his name is. He's 8-0.
Heavy favorite.
He's one of those up and coming prospects in probably the most craziest division right now. Like the amount of talent at 135 pounds is crazy, and he's one of those guys who maybe in a year or two could be in that mix within the top 15. So he's definitely someone to kind of keep your eye out on. And another one is my guy. He was meant to fight a couple of weeks ago, but his fight got cancelled at flyweight. Tatsuro Taira, 12 or 13 and 0. I believe very, very, very good grappler. Like his grappling skills are ridiculous. Like and I think he's 22, 23 years of old.
Yeah.
And he seems like one like who's got next. You know, in terms of like flyweights, you've got him and Mokaev. Like those two seem like the ones who are going to be like the next guys, you know, who are going to like be at the top. So I'll say defo look for. I'll say defo if you have like Fight Pass, defo go and obviously check those two guys out because these guys in a few years could be really, really big names.
Yep, totally with you on that. Let's just start here. Obviously, Jimmy Crute is a guy that's pretty well known now, fighting Alonzo Minfield. How do you see that one shaking out? Minfield, obviously, a little bit older. I mean, Jimmy Crute's a good fighter, man. Like, just right off the top, I like the way Jimmy fights. Do you see a way that he can get beat here?
Well, I think this is actually like a rematch. I think they fought
draw. Yeah,
it was a draw. It was a really, really close fight, but I feel there was like a fence grab, and that's what caused the draw. I think someone got like a dunk. I can't remember who it was, just off the top of my head. But you know, Alonzo Minfield, you know, he's very, very powerful. Like once he gets going, he can really put people away. But if you kind of push at him, you can really do the same to him. He's a very much of a like a 50-50 guy. If he's on, he's very dangerous. If you kind of push back, you can kind of like break him a little bit.
Right.
And Jimmy Crute's coming off a win in Australia on the Islam Vault card, but I think from what I remember as well, he wasn't fully that confident. Like it wasn't really like a great win. You know, he's coming off two awful losses. You know,
he got beat by Anthony Smith and then the champ.
Jamal Hill literally put him out, bust up his eye. Smith like literally broke his leg, you know, in that fight. It was really bad. So he's kind of like rebuilding like in himself. If Jimmy Crute is kind of like shaking off all of those like cobwebs and like that mental angst of, you know, coming off that 2-fight loss and coming off like a really good win now. Well, just not. I'll say just like he's basically won in his last fight, so he's kind of used to having like his hand raised.
Right.
Recently. If he's on and he's back to the Jimmy Crute that looked like he was gonna make noise at 205, he can easily win this. But if he allows Manifold to kind of like push the pace and push him back and like unload on him, he could find himself in like a lot of trouble. But I'm gonna go for Crute to win because I just feel he's a bit more well-rounded.
I'm going to go with Crute also. Yeah, they had that draw, but we know there was some reasons why that went to a draw. If Alonzo catches you, though, man, his power, he is dangerous. You cannot let him get going, like you said. I think Jimmy has the skills to slow him down, and after fighting him once already, I think it's going to be even. I think he's having a better time this next time around. So, yeah, I think we're both going Jimmy Crute on that one. Let's jump ahead. So Jack Della Maddalena had his opponent fall out of the fight. He's got a new opponent in Josiah Harrell. I believe we're both going with Jack in this one either way. It's just nice to have him back on a card, you know, and he's a very exciting fighter. Let's just talk about him in general because I don't think he can get beat in this fight just because it's so short notice. And we've got a debuting Harrell in this fight. Tell us a little bit about Jack.
Jack has one of like the most like cleanest boxing like within MMA. Like if like his boxing is crisp and he's mean with it. Like he's not someone who's reckless. Like he'll make sure that every shot he throws counts, and he does it with vim. He does it with like real like venom in them.
Nasty. He's a nasty fighter.
Like in his last fight against obviously like a Rude Boy Brown, against Randy Brown. Randy Brown was like he was having like success, but it was kind of Jack just letting him come onto him, just kind of just making reads, kind of just figure out just like his timing, downloading data, which is like a common thing, which is a very common term now. Right. And then once she kind of gets an idea of like, of your range and your rhythm, he will start to pick you. He will start to pick you points. And once he catches you and he knows that like he has you hurt, he will go in for the kill, but he's very calculated. It's not just going in there just bombing away. Now I've got you hurt. Like he's very, 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 very sharp and precise with it. And considering that he's known for his boxing, he choked out Randy Brown in his last fight. So he shows he has a lot more to his game out there. I think Harold is also undefeated as well. I think
7-0.
But again, we don't know about the level of opposition that he's fought against. It's easy to say that obviously he's faced against the best fighter that he's going to come up against. And for me, I see obviously Jack as a future contender at some point, or at least making noise, at 170. So I feel like Jack's going to go out there and just put on a show and just show why he's that good, personally.
Yep, I completely agree with you. I think you put that out there very nice. We're both going with Jack. Obviously, it's just an uphill challenge coming in at this point in the week.
Hey, crazy things that happens, remember with Mosfar Evaluev in his fight, and like he got pushed for a bit.
Yeah,
so it can happen.
Let's get into next on the card, Robbie Lawler, his retirement fight against Nico Price. They didn't give him an easy one on the way out. So how do you see this one shaking out for us? Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price.
Before we go into that, what's your favorite Robbie Lawler moment?
Are we not counting Rory?
No, we can.
Well, I mean, it's Rory. It's the best, one of, if not the best bloodbath of all time. Just them standing face to face, just leaking blood, and just nobody will back down. It's just such fucking fantastic energy. Like the energy between those guys, like the face to face between him and Rory is my favorite moment, when they are literally, the round's over and they're both just standing there ready. Like I get goosebumps thinking about that scene. Like it's out of a movie almost. Like it's literally almost out of a movie. That's my favorite moment for his career. Obviously, him winning the titles is all great, but that's like something that's burned into your mind, is just two men covered in blood standing there just face to face. What is your selection?
Mine's actually after the fight ends, when he finishes him and he's just walking around, just when he has like his lip just hanging out, and he's just screaming, like
it's incredible.
Like if that fight happens like 2,000 years ago and it's in a Coliseum, like it wouldn't look any different. It was literally just like two warriors just going at it, and obviously for me, that for me is probably the best fight that I've ever seen. Like personally for me, I have that as my personal number one. And he's also for me he also had one of the most fun title reigns. Like he never had a boring fight.
No, never.
Whilst he was also champion, and it's going to be quite weird to see him go, because he's kind of like, in a way, just like he's kind of like the last samurai, that kind of like old school MMA fighter way. His style hasn't changed in 21 years. If you're fighting Robbie, what you're going to get.
Yeah,
he's going to come and fight you. It's not really going to be MMA per se from a technical standpoint, but he will go out there and he's going to fight you. And you know that. So, and I'm kind of glad they're giving it someone who actually go with him,
Yeah.
But and I know Nico Price is coming off. I think he's coming off a win, but Nico's quite up and down. I know he had like a really bad loss in like
he lost
2 fights
Phil
ago.
Rowe by TKO.
Which, in the same fight when Philip Rowe obviously missed weight, so take that obviously what you will.
Right.
But I'm going for Nico only because as much as I want Lawler to get just that last fairy tale win, as we know recently, MMA isn't really kind like that. When you
No.
can't, whenever you have your last fight, you're normally going out on your back. Look what happened to Frankie Edgar last year, you know. And Robbie looks slow like now these days. Apart from when he fought against Nick, where Nick
Well,
was
that was just
when Nick was just kind of out, he wasn't really in fight shape, really. And when he fought against Barberena, who was just younger than him, like he was just younger and fresher. Yeah, I have a bad feeling that probably Robbie's gonna probably go out on a loss. Even though I do hope I'm wrong.
I'm gonna go with Robbie. I think he puts one more together. One last. I kind of hope he knocks him out. Nothing wrong with Nico Price. Just it would be really cool for Robbie to go out with a knockout and kind of cement that career with his 30th win. Yeah, I want that 30th win for Robbie Lawler on his way out. I think that'd be really impressive. I'm gonna give Lawler. Even as bad as he looked in the last couple fights, it's been tough, obviously, and the Diaz fight was just kind of a joke, unfortunately, because of why people still are so cool with the Diaz brothers. I've lost it. But yeah, I'm gonna give Lawler. I'm gonna go with Lawler to pull one out. Now it's main card time. Obviously, Bo Nickel is a guy who's quickly rising up. His name value is getting bigger. He's got a replacement also in the Val Woodburn. This is the biggest underdog on the card tonight. I guess in my opinion, Bo's just going to scoop him and drop him and grind him out. I don't think it would be any different if his opponent was the same opponent it was last week. That's just how Bo's going to fight. And until he starts fighting people that are more talented and on his level, I don't think he's going to have any resistance. His fighting style works too well when you're not as skilled as he is. So yeah. Bo's going to probably try to get him out of there in the first round.
I do definitely agree with you in the sense that, he has such a advantage when it comes to the wrestling. Like anyone who knows Bo Nickel, he's like his resume when it comes to wrestling kind of just like speaks for itself. I did like a little look into obviously Val Woodburn. He's 7-0, 5 wins by knockout, 2 wins via obviously decision. He looks quite big at for like a middleweight, I probably would imagine he's probably want to just keep it, on the feet and hoping that he can catch Bo with something, because we don't know if Bo Nickel has a chin. That could be, so, that could be something that he may look at. But Bo Nickel's definitely going to just, he's definitely going to use the wrestling. And if he manages to obviously take him down, which most of us would obviously assume that he would, from there, it's going to be all in his world. And again, I probably just see, I can't imagine like, them giving him someone who's going to derail his hype this very early on as well. So I'll say probably wins like within the first round at some point.
Yeah,
maybe round 2.
It'll be interesting to see. It's unfortunate they kind of fed this guy to Bo, but it'll be interesting to see how fast you can get him out of there.
But then again, though, on the same time, if you're able to go out there and shock everyone, that punches it in like your ticket, and you could really go somewhere. So
then we're talking about Val Woodburn next week.
Exactly. So,
I mean, it's got the potential. It's there.
High risk, very, very high reward.
That's why you got to step in and take these fights sometimes. Is you set yourself up for a massive opportunity. Next fight on the card, Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. This should be a good one. This should be a good fight. How you see this one shaking out?
First of all, I don't know how these are both at 155 because they're both so tall. Dan Hooker's 6 foot and Jalen Turner is 6'3". Like, this is going to be 2 tall kickboxers, and this is going to be a fun fight, because obviously both these guys like to fight at range, and both of them can't do that. Not both of them can play the whole like kick pointing game. So at some point these two are gonna have to meet in the middle and really, really throw down. And we know what Dan's all about. Dan literally lives and breathes in that world. Jalen Turner has crazy power. Obviously cutting down to 155 pounds. He also has quite a few sneaky subs as well because he ended up dropping Dan Hooker's teammate Brad Riddell and caught him with something as well. So he's more than capable to choke him out. This one is going to be a very, very fun fight. This is the sleeper pick for a potential fight of the night. That isn't my pick. That's going to be a little bit later on. But this one is going to be fun. This one's going to be a fun fight. Whether it goes 3 rounds or ends early, this is going to be a fun one. And I'm picking Jalen Turner.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm just going to say we're both picking Jalen Turner.
And this is for someone who's a big Hammond fan, by the way.
You are.
I'm a really big Dan guy as well.
I think Jalen Turner won me over in his loss to Gamrot more than anything. I like that split decision against Gamrot really sold me on Turner and his abilities as a fighter. I think he builds off of that loss, and beating Dan Hooker is still a notch on your belt, man. Like Dan Hooker's still a viable fighter in the division. So I think this is a big win for Jalen Turner, and I think this just helps him keep building up to the next level. So I'm going to take Turner also to beat Dan Hooker.
Yeah, and also being Dan's quite big when you think about not anyone just beats Dan Hooker these days. If you kind of look like his last 4 losses, he's lost against Arnold Allen, who obviously at featherweight is one of his top 5, coming off a really good fight against Max. He fought Islam Makhachev late, very, very late fucking notice, who is one of the 2 or 3 best fighters pound for pound out there. Michael Chandler, and don't get me wrong, Chandler proved me wrong on basically that night, and Dustin Poirier. If you look over the past couple of years, Dan only loses to very elite guys. So you know if you can go out there and get a win against them, that is huge.
Oh yeah, he's still a big name. Yeah, I mean, losing to those 4 guys is nothing to sneeze at. Next fight is got a lot riding on it. This is really important. My guy Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis. Let me start by saying this. I hope that everybody realizes how great Robert Whittaker is. I'm sure they do. It's rare you're going to ever have somebody who would be a champion. He would be the champion if one other person didn't exist. He's been the champion. He would have still been the champion had this person not exist. Had one of the greatest fighters of our lifetime not come around, Robert Whittaker would be the champion, and he's the best guy in the division, second best guy in the division by a long margin. To say all that, if Dricus du Plessis wins this fight, it instantly sets up a really, really big title fight. He's got so much on the line this weekend. Could you imagine beating a guy like Robert Whittaker and you get the chance to fight Israel? His resume completely changed. Just everything about Dricus's life could change on Saturday night. And at the same time, I don't know how he could ever beat Rob. That's what's so crazy about this matchup is du Plessis has everything in the world to fight for and everything possible in front of him. He could be such a big star if he wins on Saturday. And he could go into a mega fight with Izzy. If you beat Rob, you go into a mega fight with Izzy. And they could make it in Africa and they could literally do a lot of crazy stuff to really make this important. And Dricus has all of that in front of him on Saturday. But he's fighting a guy who in his own right is a generational talent, at 185. So I say all that to say, this moment is massive. But I think Rob beats him. I think Rob beats him 9 out of 10 times. He might beat him 10 out of 10 times. But Saturday could be that one time. So go ahead and break it down a little bit further for us. But the moment for Saturday is massive.
If you look at it from an X's and O standpoint, if you look at striking, wrestling, grappling, Rob has an advantage everywhere. Everywhere. And I don't want to say luck because it kind of seems like Dricus has got lucky in his last 2 wins. You fight against pretty much like the ghost of obviously Darren Till, when Darren Till hasn't been the same. And especially in that second round when Till was teeing off on him a little bit and he was getting kind of like beat up on. It was looking like he was going to get finished. He obviously comes back in the third round and obviously chokes him out. Till hasn't been the same Till since against Rob in 2020, and then his last fight against Brunson, he was gassing out. He was literally blowing, but it just so happens obviously Brunson was a bit more tired than him and kind of just gave up a little bit. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that to kind of like take away from obviously Dricus, because if you have 5 fights in the UFC and you have 4 finishes, that shows how good you are, right?
Yeah.
You were like a champion in KSW in Poland, which is a really big like European MMA organization as well. So not trying to take away from him, but if he fights like he's fought in his last 2 fights against Rob, he will not see the first round like end.
Yeah.
Like he will not see the second round, because Rob is like it's kind of like what you basically said as well. Like Rob is clearly like a generational talent, and he's basically a champion without the belt. He's like he's an uncrowned champion in a sense. But the main thing for me is that Rob recently is looking like he's hit his prime. Like his last few like performances, like his fight against Marvin was an absolute masterpiece. Yeah. Like the way that he was in this flow state, he literally outclasses everyone apart from Izzy. Like he hasn't lost to anyone not called Israel Adesanya since 2014.
Right.
That kind of says it all. Dricus has power. Dricus can throw down all of that. He has a puncher's chance, which again is very, very mean to say. And I know that a lot of this is riding on, if he wins, because obviously Izzy wants to fight him. Izzy wants to really, really get his hands on him because of the whole, Dricus saying, Izzy, Izzy, Kamara and other people are not Africans because obviously they live elsewhere. I'm born and bred in Africa. I train in Africa. All of that stuff, all of that kind of connotation behind it. That obviously wouldn't be huge. That would just like sell itself. But Rob is someone who is Rob overlooks no one. He overlooks nobody. Like you can tell, he lives and breathes like fighting. Like he has like a true like a warrior's like mentality. This fight shouldn't be close, personally for me. And I just feel like Dricus on Saturday is gonna find out how good Rob is, and there is levels to this. Yep. And this fight could get ugly. This fight could get real bad. Like if Rob wants to go out there and says, if I put him away, I want to get my third title shot, because it looked like a year ago he's probably never going to get that title shot again as long as Izzy is basically champ.
Yeah. He's
probably thinking now, I beat him. If I basically smoke this guy that everyone's talking about, and Izzy's going to fight in obviously Sydney, where obviously like Rob's from. Rob is obviously like an Aussie as well. He's saying, I want that shot. And I feel really, really, really bad for Dricus, because Rob is really going to put it on him personally.
Yep, I'm with you. I think we're both going Rob.
It's not going to be close.
I just wanted to lay out there though how big this could be.
Oh yeah, if
this win.
If he does that shakes up the whole middleweight division.
All right, let's go into the co-main event: Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja.
Pantoja.
All right. He's got a cool name. Brandon Moreno is a guy we're both really big on, but staring him in the face is somebody who's beaten him in the past. This is a big fight.
Twice.
Makes it even worse. So, how do you see this one going down?
This is going to be... I'm kind of torn about this one because Pantoja's coming into good form. He has 2 back-to-back submission wins. The only people beating him in recent times is Askarov, who was kind of seen as the next guy, and Figgy, So he's only lost against elite guys over the past couple of years. Only lost 3 on overall in his time in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But Moreno isn't the same Moreno who basically fought against him twice. You know, obviously, the last time they fought, Moreno got cut. Moreno came away, came back. He's shown, especially coming off those 4 fights against obviously Figgy, like he's shown that he is a championship fighter. Like he really rises. Like the way he fought in January was, and especially in Brazil, you find it in like enemy territory, and you put on a show like that. Like he's really shown like he's really just like a really like big game fighter. I would imagine that Moreno wants to keep it technical. He doesn't really want to like, even though he'd go out there and brawl with him. If he brawls with obviously Pantoja, that opens up the risk for him to get taken down. And I don't think as much as he's improved in the grappling as he showed against obviously Figgy, like when they're having like the most like craziest scrambles, he doesn't really do that against someone who's shown that he can choke you out.
Right.
And Toya does have power. He does have he knocked out Matt Schnell like not too long ago. So he's shown that he is able to hurt, and he did kind of put a beating on Brandon in their second fight.
Yeah.
But I would imagine Moreno's probably going to show I'm basically not the same guy from basically before. He's probably want to keep it technical and use his boxing and use his footwork. And this is going to be a close one, but I've got Moreno winning 3-2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Moreno also. I think it's gonna be a decision. I think that's 3-2. Obviously, it's got to be 3-2. Pantoja, there's a lot of danger here when a guy's beat you twice. When he's beating you the way like that, it's really tough. I think Moreno's going with those wars against Figueiredo has changed him enough where I think that's not a big mental hurdle for him. I think he's more than good enough to win this fight. I'm going to go with Moreno to keep it rolling. It's a big night for Mexican fighters, man. Big night for Mexican fighters. Yeah, we're both going Moreno, and that takes us into the main event where Yair Rodriguez has an opportunity to cement himself as one of the all-timers in the division against who we think is the GOAT. I mean, people say Aldo, but Aldo didn't beat Max 3 times in Max's prime. And if you want to say it's 2 times, that's perfectly fine. Nobody beat Max 2 times in his prime either.
And Volk also beat Aldo as well in Brazil.
So Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez for all the marbles at featherweight. I'm going to just come out and say it. I got Volk retaining, and I think Volk at the end of the night calls out Islam again and gets that fight one more time at 155. And then I think the belt is available at featherweight going forward. If Volk wins, obviously. If not, Volk fights Yair again, and we do it over one more time. So I got Volk winning, and I got him moving on to 155.
Okay.
So tell me how this one shakes out.
This fight is very, very intriguing for me because I want to see how Volk copes with obviously Yair's speed, because he's fast, man. He comes out very quick. He's lightning quick, and he has power behind his shots, and not just him just like flashing a leg kick and just do it very, very quickly. Like if he hits you, he can hurt you. I mean, this is literally the same guy who turned Max Holloway into a wrestler. Like, because he was really like, even though Max didn't obviously get dropped, you can tell he was stinging him with some really, really hot shots there. And the speed in the first 3 rounds were giving Max problems. Even though Max kind of, returned fire back and forth, it was one of the best fights of that year. Crazy. But Volk needs to utilize leg kicks a lot. He needs to kind of like slow Yair down, like eventually. Yep. He needs to like wrestle him, because if he wants to like stand in front of him, because just because of how obviously Yair is longer than him and faster than him, that could really give him problems because we know how Volk has really good footwork. He's really good with his like boxing in and out, and he's normally like very very quick.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to get someone who's a lot more like quicker than him, and that could and that could like give him a lot of problems. And I do see Yair having success early, and he's more than capable of like literally catching him or something. And just
because Volk still ducks down into his knee when he's trying to dot. If he does that wrong and he gets caught with a kick, it's night, and we have a new champion. So it literally takes one kick.
It's going to be game over, and consider Yair has a taekwondo background, so his kicks. If he sees something, he will throw it, and he will do it with bad intentions. But I just think if this fight goes past round 3, Volk is too good all around, and he always has a really good game plan. He'll have something ready for eventually once he kind of like weathers the storm, is kind of able to avoid danger to where where he's in really really like big like trouble. He should be able between rounds 3, 4, and 5 to kind of like swing the fight his way, kind of just like slowly like grind him out, because I don't see him finishing Yair. I don't see him finishing Yair. I mean, it's more than possible. If he goes out there, then that shows how great he is. But I'm gonna say after probably the troublesome first 2 rounds, Volk kind of picks it up in round 5. So I've got Volk winning, but I will not be shocked if obviously Yair comes out and just shocks everyone, because he's really really coming he's really coming into his own, and he presents a lot of danger, and this fight is going to be. This fight, I have this being my fight of the night, because I feel like we're going to see Volk in real trouble, but we're also going to see Volk finding his way to navigate it.
Yeah, and another thing is, when you touched on the wrestling, Volk has most of the time at featherweight, he has a strength advantage. So when he gets onto you and he's got a hold of you, he's got that advantage. He's going to have to use that control a little bit more with Yair, in my opinion, because he's so fantastic on the feet. I think there's going to be a lot more grappling involved, clenching, things like that, just to slow him down and try to wear on him a little bit, because of Yair's, obviously he has the speed advantage. He's more dynamic in terms of striking. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that also in Volk's game, to try to, offset the speed difference, which is apparent. But yeah, we're both going with Volk. Volk, he's one of my favorite fighters. He's just turned into that kind of guy. So it's nice this weekend, 2 of my favorite guys fighting on the same card, and throw Moreno in there. I mean, that's 3, like co-main, the headliner. I mean, there's 3 of my favorite guys right there. This is just a ginormously stacked card. It's incredible that they've gotten this all together. AJ, you got any thoughts before we get out of here?
One last one for any that basically tunes in who are big anime fans. Anime of the year comes back tomorrow. Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 starts. Everyone who knows me, I'm a big fan of that. So defo tune in with that, because that's going to be something really really special. Like if you're someone who has read the manga as well, you already know what's going to come, and it's going to be one of those ones. It's going to be one of those ones. Sure, I'm looking forward to it.
It's got really enormous potential for this next coming season. I've been holding off on watching it just because I gotta get my mind right and make sure I have everything in order, so I know what's going on. So I'm gonna do my rewatch on HBO coming up soon. But yeah, JJK obviously coming back big time for all those fans out there. And you guys, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. We're doing our best. We appreciate you guys. We need a couple more subscribers. We're almost at 40, so we're doing our best. Keep helping us out, and we will see you guys on Twitter. Talk to you guys next time. HOA MMA out.